Hi and welcome to INTERGEO TV. This is the official broadcast channel and podcast where we address current and future-oriented topics and reflect INTERGEO's motto, inspiration for a smarter world in all its facets. So explore with INTERGEO TV and the experts interviews the future of geoinformation, geodesy and land management. Welcome to this INTERGEO TV expert interview. I'm your host, Denise Wenzel, and today we're diving into the topic of Earth observation and the Copernicus program led by the European Union, which provides comprehensive Earth observation data and services that are instrumental in managing environmental and climate-related challenges. So let's talk about how Copernicus and satellite data is utilized in this context. My expert today is Dr. Godela Roßner. She's head of Earth observation at the German Space Agency, DLR. And Godela has extensive experience in the field of remote sensing and has worked on numerous missions related to Earth observation. She's also a passionate advocate for the use of satellite data to address environmental challenges such as climate change. So welcome, Godela. We're really delighted that you join us here in this expert interview today.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you for having me. I'm very happy to talk with you about Copernicus and its utilization for dealing with the climate change.
Absolutely. So let's dive into the topic. And how does the Copernicus program help in the fight against the climate change?
So first of all, what needs to be understood is that Copernicus is really an operational program which has been set up by the European Commission and the European Space Agency to deliver objective information on the state of the environment, on the state of the nature and all its processes to help informed political decision making. So really deliver information on all the aspects of the Earth system that is affected by transition, by changes that are happening in increasing manner due to the climate change. And to give some examples, so there's a specific Copernicus climate change service really looking at the effects of the global warming. And we have seen through the service that in 2023 and 2024, we have already record-breaking global temperatures. If you watch the ocean temperature rising, it's really obvious how it is off the let's say latest trend. It's even the warming is even increasing more in an exponential way than we have expected. So any expert is really shocked by seeing that, and it just shows how helpful this global information is that we gain through the Copernicus services. So it will help us tremendously in understanding how the climate is changing, but also how the weather situation is changing. So we know already that we have to expect more extreme weather events, where we have to deal with floods on the one hand, extreme floods, and on the other hand with extensive droughts. And to handle that, it will be helpful to have more precise information on how this is distributed on the globe, but then also going scales below, how this will affect the regions in different countries of the world, what we have to expect there, and how we can help the people living there to manage this global change that is happening.
So Copernicus is also monitoring the surface of the land cover. So what are the benefits of this in particular?
Exactly. So that's also very key. So on the one hand side, we want to understand how the global warming is taking place, how it is increasing. But on the other hand, we have to look at the drivers, the effects, how we deal with natural resources. So, for example, we have to talk about how do we manage our forests? We know that the global warming will change the natural distribution of different tree species. So not every tree species will be viable in a warming climate. So foresters have to think about how to rebuild, let's say, the forests that have been already affected by droughts to make them robust for future global warming. We have to look at agriculture, how we can make sure that an increasing world population can be served, that we have food security for hopefully everyone living on this earth. So we have to look for ways how to sustainably manage our agricultural lands. This also means to reduce unnecessary resources that have been distributed, like fertilizers, pesticides. We want to minimize that, but maximize the exploitation of agricultural goods to provide food on Earth. Also, we have to care about our water reservoirs. So water is really a key resource. We wouldn't live on this planet if we hadn't have if we wouldn't have water. So we have to make sure that the water resources are secure, that they are clean. And these are also aspects that can be monitored by Copernicus, by Earth observation. And this is what is being built up on the European level by the European Commission and ESA to have these services providing information on the land cover change, water body changes, but also then countries are working on the national level to distribute also information on levels for the countries or the regions or even on communal level to make sure that everyone has the best benefit and make sure that we have a living that is sustainable on this planet Earth.
So you just mentioned the changes and that happened and that has Copernicus identified so far. And just to highlight it in a second question, so what are the most significant changes in land cover that has Copernicus satellites have identified so far, and what are the implications of these changes?
Actually, I would say the most, let's say, surprising or warning changes that have been monitored by Copernicus, I would see in this climate service, which I mentioned before, really to see the increasing warming of the oceans, of the air temperature. But of course, we also monitor the changes in the agricultural lands. We monitor deforestation. So a big issue in Europe, for example, is how much of the land cover that we have is being built areas, so where we have a man-made ground, which is not so good for the local climate. So especially in cities, if you have less vegetation but a lot of built-up area, it will be very warm. So these are aspects, but also coming back to the aspect of having secured groundwater resources. And to make sure that we have less floods or less severe floods, it's important to make sure that we don't have too many areas that are manipulated, that have artificial surfaces, because they increase the runoff of the water and hinder the recharge of the groundwater resources. So these are aspects that can be monitored by Copernicus to see where do we have built up area, where is it increasing in a more extensive way than we would expect. How can we preserve our natural resources, also nature conservation areas to protect biodiversity? How can we manage a good balance between more intensive land land use like we have in agriculture, and make sure that we also have extensive use of where we support also the biodiversity aspects, through relevant measures that can be applied there.
Let's have a closer look to Europe and the forests there, because we need trees, we need forests to get some clean air, and this is really important. So what about the forests in Europe? How much forests do we still have? Is it enough? Has it changed? So what can you see there, or what can you say to this?
Well, to say an exact number of how much forest do we have, I don't know. I'm not the expert for that. I think that would be a question to ask a forester. And even there, we have a lot of different forests in Germany. So we have state forests, but we also have private forests. But what we see is that foresters more and more include Earth observation to make sure that they have a good understanding on what is happening. We have seen through the latest throughout the latest years that we have issues due to droughts. So we have calamities that affect the forests and have made disappear the forests. So in large areas, for example, in the Harz Mountains, but also in other areas, we don't have the forests anymore. We have pioneer vegetation right now that is regrowing, but the forests have disappeared due to these stress-induced calamities on the one hand. But we also see, and also a little bit, or related to the increasing temperatures, the increasing droughts, that forests have burned. So we had large forest fires in Brandenburg, in other areas. So this is another topic we have to take care of, to see rather early in the stage of the year how affected is the vegetation, are the forests by droughts, how much are they at risk to forest fires, what can be done to make sure that they won't be affected by forest fires. So these are issues to take care of, and but also fields of areas where management measures can be taken. And the earlier we can provide this information through Copernicus, and especially in the combination of Copernicus with models on these vegetation cycles, is combined with temperature and rainfall information and forecasts, we can assure that early measures can be taken to mitigate all these risks.
Okay, so we just had a look to the forests in Europe, but we also have the huge rainforests, for example, in Brazil. And what about them? Do you see also the wildfires over there, and and the agriculture, and what's the status about them?
Yeah, I mean, forest fires last year has been an issue worldwide, and it will be again and again. Also, due to the global warming, it will be an increasing topic that's taking place, not only in the tropics, but also in Canada, in Indonesia, so many different areas. This is one topic. Another topic is the degradation of forests. So we know that forests are being turned into arable land to produce soybeans or any other agricultural foods. So they're at steady risk due to the fact that agriculture production may be more beneficial for the local population. But we know, of course, that the forests are key, and especially in the tropics, to provide the carbon storage that we need to make sure that we stabilize our climate. So if we lose these forests, we lose the carbon, we lose actually the climate balance, or we make it even worse. So taking care of these forests is also very key for our climate, key for our living on Earth, is key for a lot of ecosystems in these areas that are essential to sustain the biodiversity we have on the globe, which is the second largest crisis on the world to sustain the biodiversity. So we have to look at the forests, and they evolve in very different manners. For example, we have the mangroves, we have to take care of them. They are important for disaster prevention and for biodiversity. So we also have the rainforest, and we know that they are partly harvested due to the fact that the areas turned into agricultural land, but also due to the fact that there's a lot of money on the black market for tropical wood. And there's a problem also with to detect this kind of deterioration in such forests, because they are very dense actually, and it's hard to monitor what is happening there because the crowns are rebuilding quite fast. But if you have a closer look, and that's what partly can be supported through Copernicus and Earth observation satellites, you see that there is a degradation in the forest. So you see a loss of biomass, and this will be an important indicator to really understand what is happening. Also to have a very frequent coverage of these areas to see where forest degradation or let's say wood harvesting is taking place, to make sure that the countries in charge can get after those people that most often illegally harvest the forest in these tropical areas and also other areas on the world.
So can Copernicus also make the increase of carbon dioxide visible?
I mean, carbon dioxide is the most important greenhouse gas that is challenging us. I mean, it's the increase of it and the danger that comes from it is man-made. There's no question about it. But of course, it is important to see how it is emitted on the globe into the atmosphere. And it is key to understand this distribution. Up to now, we don't have this, let's say, holistic view on the globe, what is happening. We have, of course, the indication through measurements that are distributed on the globe, and we have modeling, but it will be key to have the verification through Earth observation satellites. And therefore, the CO2 mission that is right now being built by the European Commission and ESA is foreseen to provide this global and holistic view on what's happening with the carbon dioxide in the world, with the emissions that are coming and that are still increasing, unfortunately, but also to see how they are distributed, how this is evolving, where the strongest emitters and what's actually going on the globe, and how this is how this relates to the statistics that are provided by the countries. I mean, we have the Paris Agreement, we have the global stock take, so there is an agreement among the countries to reduce the greenhouse gases which are being emitted. And so far, we rely on the statistics that are drawn from industry production, agricultural production, and so on. But we don't really have the proof of concept. And Earth observation will make sure that we really can make sure, is it true actually what is being reported? Is it congruent? Is our view really complete on what is going on with the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere? And so we are very much looking forward to this mission. It will be starting in 2026, so rather soon, and everyone who's involved is really working on high pressure because everyone knows how important this mission will be to gain a better understanding on what is happening with the emissions that we are releasing to the atmosphere.
So to resume a very general question from your experience and knowledge and and the role of Earth observation. So can Earth observation save lives?
Indeed, Copernicus and Earth observation does save life. It's already operationally and again in use when they are happening catastrophes all over the world, whether it's forest fires or landslides or floods. We have, for example, the International Charter Space and Major Disasters, which can be activated through users worldwide in cases of catastrophes to make sure, and even in advance. So if, for example, a hurricane is coming up and one can foresee that it will be highly likely that it will hit and disturb and destroy properties and also put lives at risk. The charter can be activated, will collect data on the situation on ground before and after the event and provide this information, this data, but most of all, information drawn out of these data to help the people on the ground to get as fast as possible to the people in need, to provide help and make sure that, as fast as possible, everyone can be helped. So this is one example. But also, for example, if you think of infrastructure that can be monitored by Earth observation, which is key for our life. And we can observe the stability of such infrastructures, for example, dams or bridges or so on. So those can have an effect on the immediate life of people, and Earth observation can help in making this life more secure and looking that risks that are existing are mitigated or managed before any danger or any catastrophic event can happen. So yes, Earth observation can save life. It helps already to save life, and it's really key for our life on Earth.
So, wow, learn more about the power of Earth observation and all these topics at INTERGEO 2024 from the 24th to the 26th of September this year at the exhibition grounds in Stuttgart. Or you can also join the INTERGEO community all year long on Instagram, on LinkedIn, or intergeo.de. So, and this was our expert talk today about the Copernicus program. Thank you very much, Godela Roßner, for these insights, and really excited to hear more about that and learn more about that at INTERGEO. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise, for having me, and really looking forward to the INTERGEO because I know there will be a lot of information on Earth observation from different actors in the field. So yeah, also an invite from my side to come and see the INTERGEO and all the information on Earth observation.
Thank you.